is Jessica Smith. This is the controversial video discussion for Ltec4440. We're talking about same-sex adoption, for, against, the consequences, and then we'll have a conclusion at the end. Here's the introductions.
I'm Eric Dimmer.
Matt Aton.
I'm Jacob Alfred.
Joe Collins.
Shelby Krausen.
Zachary Kuhn.
Alright, so for same-sex adoption, I passed out some papers that have some talking points on them. This is my media. This is media too. I have against same-sex adoption, I have from the focusonthefamily.com website some points against same-sex adoption that we can talk about. So, does anyone want to say anything about the points? This is where y'all talk.
Yes.
First off, focusonthefamily.com is heavily biased.
Well, it's geared towards trying to make sure the child is raising a...
It's focused on the child.
That was a very
as
good
opposed
point
to
you
the
made,
needs
Matt.
of the parents.
But if you knew what the group was actually about, they don't really care
But
about the child. They're more about promoting the religion.
Well, no. What that particular group is trying to do is they are trying to preserve the sanctity of marriage as well as adoption of children.
And right now we're talking about focusonthefamily.com and their stance on against same-sex marriage or
Yeah, but if you
adoption.
want to get into the sanctity of marriage, like
Adoption. I didn't need to say marriage.
So we're talking about
adoption or marriage,
We're talking about adoption. Let's keep it all on adoption, guys. Not about that's a whole separate issue.
And adoption should be concentrated as a mother and a father of opposite sex raising a child together.
and why do you believe
that
that?
are financially stable.
Well,
Because adoption provides orphans with the family relationships that God intended for all mankind to have.
Who is this God guy? I don't know about this God guy.
Alright, well in addition to that, it also goes against the laws of nature. I mean, they can't procreate, so how are they supposed to even...
It actually doesn't go against the laws of nature because over 1,000 other animal species
Right, but they can't
Alright,
procreate.
hey
cannot
guys.
procreate. That is
Exactly, so
true.
they do
But
not
1,000
raise children.
other actually they
Can we
do.
take a minute here to listen to what Zach and Shelby have to say?
In this context, the laws of nature, God, and quite frankly the mother and father have nothing to do with it apart from actually being the adoptees. You can try to bring God into it, but the reality is, I mean, it's a separate issue. This isn't about the laws of nature thing. This is about whether or not our society condones it and how our society treats it and what our society is going to make of these two parents that have adopted a child and how this child is going to be raised, between them.
That was a very good point, Zach.
Very much.
And now Shelby?
Well, it's like if you look at other countries and their stance on homosexuality, we're actually a lot, I guess you could say, regressed than them, because they have adopted that's a normal stance.
Blasphemy.
I wouldn't know exactly what their stance for adoption would be, because mainly they're more third world countries, but they would probably be more condoning of it than our society would be, just because we bring religion into ours more than other countries.
Are we talking
That
about
was a
the third
very
world
good point,
countries?
Shelby.
Well, but at the same time, what we are concerned about is the morality of the United States. This country has been declining in morality over time, and bringing in...
What does morality have to do with proper raising a child?
But you're having to think about the...
And where does your
stance of-
morality come from? I'm gonna put that on you.
Well, but that's part of our problem. Our country is focused on ourselves, and we never think about how what we're doing affects the rest of the world. So we have to take into effect.
And now we have
how
to take into
this is-
effect how this is going to affect the children of
Which
our
is
great
our-
nation.
Which is the
Founded by
future
God.
of our country. These children are
Children
the
can
future.
still be creative, whether
I
they're in
believe in
a
children.
man-woman
This country
household or
was-
a man-to-man or a woman-woman household. the human species can still go on. That's not a problem. You're just trying to debate on whether the society will continue in its current form or you don't want it to evolve.
Well, but the issue is that if it becomes so commonplace, then that might spring up instances in which large groups are reverting to homosexuality, and as a result of that, that could tear down the fabric of.
It was common all
Thank you
throughout
for your
history.
input, Eric.
Greeks, Native American Indians, just to name two.
But
they were
look where both
Celtics.
societies are right now.
Can we
Yeah.
let JP finish what he was saying?
Like even in the Native Americans, they considered those people. They were considered sacred. They were called their two-spirit people, who could love either a man or a woman or both.
Right, but they were rather barbaric, that's why we replaced them.
Society is meant to shift, though. You can't call the ancient Egyptians barbaric, yet they thought incest was.
What's the time?
No, we absolutely can call
But
them
that
barbaric.
issue
Yeah,
happens in
like
Kentucky
We're
as well.
not any better than they were.
They were considered geniuses of their time, but they thought incest was a commonplace thing, and society shifted.
Think about the children here, what's best for
That's okay.
them, and what's best for
Bring it
them
on
is
back to the
have
children.
their mother and father to raise them in the same house.
And that's great that you want to think about the children, but you can't just think about just the children. It's who are these parents, that are involved. How do they feel? Like trying being told like, oh, because you're this way or that way, you can't have a kid.
If you keep it that way, then nobody's gonna be having kids. You see a lot of people who are having
Now,
really are parents who should not be having children. Period. And
Now-
you're gonna deny
It's
parents
their
who have.
God-given right.
I would like.
Again, who
Why they
is
are
this God?
allowed to
Hey, guys.
procreate.
I would like to make a key point. How do you think that this affects same-sex marriage? Like, how do you think same-sex adoption will affect same-sex marriage?
I
For
really
and
think that
against.
it'll boost the
I think
bonds
it's
of those
a
involved.
slippery slope
But-
to hell.
Well,
No,
we're
please
the-
don't laugh. Please don't laugh. That was a good point.
Well, unfortunately, the same-sex adoption can't be really fully analyzed, I guess you could say, until same-sex marriage can be legalized in a broad scale within the country. Because what is it? Only 21 states allow same-sex marriages at the time, or something like that.
21 states allow same-sex
Or that's
marriages, and the only 21 states allow same-sex adoption. There is only one state that's against same-sex adoption, and that is Florida. When in 2004, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the ruling of Lofton v. Sec of the Department of Children and Family Services. So in Florida, it is illegal to same-sex
I
adopt.
would like to make a, well,
and that is why we love Florida.
yes, Florida's doing God's work.
And
Florida's filled with old people.
I'd like to
Exactly.
Exactly.
And they
Those
are
are
filled with traditional
Guys, can we let
American
Zach
values.
talk?
Traditional
Can we get back a little
Christian values.
Can we get
And
back
those
a
values need to die.
You guys keep hitting the same nail on the head that, it's
That
immoral.
nail is driven
That-
into the wood.
This is
It's-
the
Can
war.
we-
This is
Can
the
Those
we-
are the
reality.
ones that help.
This
Can
isn't
we calm down,
cross.
guys?
But
Can we
you
let
guys keep
Zach-
hitting it that it's a moral issue, that it's about it's a slippery slope, it's wrong, etc. How is it wrong? Or, first of all, basically, you're saying that being gay is wrong, right?
Are you directing your
Absolutely.
question to the people in the room?
Yes.
Alright, and what's your response to this question?
Being gay is wrong.
And your rebuttal?
How is it wrong? How is it so wrong that it would even, give negative values to a child if they were to raise a child? A child just needs to have, values in place.
Because that could lead to gender confusion. It could
What's wrong with
lead
gender
to.
confusion?
Well, I actually read a
Well,
thing
what you
earlier
think of
today.
as gender confusion is really just people, maybe they're, you were born a man, and you really don't feel, manly.
There
You're
was
more
a
feminine.
boy.
You decide that you
There
want
was
to
a
be a
boy-
woman, so you dress up as a tranny. That's fine. That's what
Exactly, which is why we hate Austin as well.
Let's not.
Trannies are
repeat-
beautiful too.
There was a boy
Guys.
born. There was a boy born who had a botched circumcision. and his parents instead chose to raise him as a girl, giving him hormonal treatments, and even so far as changing his name from a baby, you know. So he
Brianna.
didn't know.
It was Brendan to
Brianna, I think.
yeah.
And they decided to tell him that when he was like 14, yeah. And so he decided to go back to being a boy and change his name back to Brendan. But he never fully recovered, and at age 38 he committed suicide from like emotional trauma.
That's also an extreme, deviation from the norm. You're talking about
That was the
multiple.
exception from the rule.
I wouldn't even say that. I would say that was almost a mutation.
According to the American Psychological Association policy statement on sexual orientation, parents and children, there's no reliable evidence that homosexual orientation per se impairs psychological functioning. Second, beliefs that lesbian and gay adults are not fit parents and have no empirical foundation or affect the psyche of the child. And how do you feel about that?
Oh, me?
How do you
Personally?
feel?
You guys.
Can you repeat the question?
Basically,
You have no evidence.
the Psychological
You
Association
have no
says
evidence.
I
that
have all the evidence.
people who same-sex adopt their child has no impact psychologically.
However, there haven't been any long-term studies to confirm or deny this.
That is a good point.
Actually, if they were saying that there's no empirical foundation built upon this, I'm pretty sure they've been doing studies since at least the late 70s. That had given about 40 years worth of knowledge to pass down, data built up.
But logical default adaptation would be the best answer
There
for
are-
our society.
There are some studies by Kurvikas and Leviquist study of families consisting of unmarried couples and stepchildren or adopted children found that same-sex couples have had higher education levels and greater economic status than opposite-sex couples, and that both partners in the same-sex couples were more likely to be employed. How does this make you feel?
Okay, so now you're bringing greed into that as well, which goes against our
Initial
Christian
Exactly.
beliefs. Because
I
if
say
they
you are
are,
false. That is false, sir.
but if they are, if you're using this as a point in order to emphasize your belief that this should be allowed, then what you're doing is you're using their economic gain as the basis in that argument. And by doing so, you are bringing in one of the 7 deadly sins, greed.
And you are
And what do the
introducing
churches
these
put back into the
children-
community when
And you are
thousands of
introducing-
people tithe their 10%?
You're introducing this in this concept of accepting the sin of, oh, it's okay to the children, and now you're condemning them. They're gonna go to hell.
But where does this hell come from? What is hell? Has anyone seen this hell? Come back, let us know. Well,
Can we
No.
see what Shelby has
Hell
to
is
say
where
upon
Captain
this
Planet
fact?
goes when he's in
Jacob?
reform.
Can we see what Shelby
but has
has to
anyone
say?
been there?
JP, can we see what Shelby has to say about this fact?
Well, and unfortunately, this is going against y'all, but we're in an information age where religion doesn't play like as number one in households anymore. So a lot of your foundations, like going against one of the 7 deadly sins, is no longer becoming valid.
Exactly, which is why we need another Inquisition.
Okay, so you.
How is that going to help when your
Because
when
nobody
your God
expects
hasn't
the
even
American
followed his own
Inquisition.
rules? I am above the law. I am me.
Also, barring gay men and lesbians from becoming parents is discrimination based on sexual orientation, which would not be acceptable in other contexts such as employment.
Yeah, we're not talking about employing somebody. We're talking about adopting and raising a human being and sculpting their worldview.
But this is
And
still a
we should
civil
respect
rights
what you
issue.
think.
This isn't liberty or morality or anything like that. This is nothing
Something about
no
raising
different than
children.
giving women the right to vote or giving freedom to slaves or anything like that, granting rights.
When did this become a right to vote? I thought we're still on the subject.
While we're
of
at
trying
it,
to
women
what's
can't
best for
vote.
kids.
let's tack that on the
So,
agenda.
well, okay, you were all for morality, so you would rather a child stay in a dilapidated orphanage because no because no heterosexual couple will adopt them, but if there was a stable same-sex couple, you would still prefer it to stay in this, like, or bad orphanage.
That was a good point, Shelby.
You would also have
Which
them
is
verbally and psychologically abused from a small child with threats of hell. Yeah, you're a real great parent there.
Well, there's this thing called discipline. How do you discipline a child? You spank them,
You have
or
to.
you send them in timeout. Hell is the
Or
exact same
you
thing.
threaten them
But
with
are you
eternal
saying
damnation.
same-sex
That
couples
was the
can't
same thing.
punish a child?
It's the same
Well,
thing.
no, I'm
You
not
can
saying
whip them
that
with
they
a
can.
belt or threaten them with eternal damnation. Whatever gets the job done.
Again, religion is becoming less important in today's
But
society.
where
so
it becomes
the threat of hell
abuse is that you're
Are
becoming-
you
telling
saying
them
lies.
religion? Are you
Listen,
saying religion is replaceable by a belt?
No, I'm saying religion is being replaced by science.
But exactly, which is where the issue comes in, because by doing so, we are decreasing the morality of this country.
You can threaten your kids with a deadly disease instead of hell. It'll get the same.
Why not?
If you want to
Why
threaten your
not?
kids, threaten your kids, but don't tell them lies.
Oh, okay.
Not been the one that's like with.
Alright, so I have another talking point. If children in gay and lesbian couples are together, say there's a opposite sex marriage, they get a divorce, and then a woman of the divorce marries another woman, and she brings the child along with her. In the event that the father has passed away, or the father no longer has rights to the child, and the second mom would not be able to adopt the child in Florida. So in that case, if the original mom passes away, the second parent cannot get rights to the child. So they would not be able to be covered under health insurance. They would not be able to enroll them in school. They would not be able to basically be their parents. So in the event of the first mother passing away, that child would either have to go into foster care or go into a relative, taking them away from the second parent, even if they have grown attached. How do you feel about this?
It takes time for these. It takes time for these. For people as a whole of our society to get used to the idea of homosexuality. That's really what the problem is. Trying to figure out how to handle these problems and how they're going to, integrate or mix with our society. Some people don't want to do so. Some people do, but. In the game, though, once it's mixed, that's kind of the problem there. That reflects how far along our society is in terms of getting used to homosexuality. If they were used enough to it, it would be more the norm where the child would go through that because it was something that happened every day. But, people die every day, people have accidents every day. Left and right, people would have children that they didn't know how to handle them.
Can you speak up? It is hard to hear you.
I suppose that you do make a valid point. Frankly, I would hate to see that child go through such trauma from not being able to be with somebody that they care about and that they are affectionate for. So I suppose that you do have a valid argument there. So,
In the event that the second parent, the second mother has good health insurance too, the child would not be covered if same-sex adoption did not get passed.
okay, now that's a good point as well. Frankly, even though I am Christian and that's where most of these views come from, Jesus taught to take care of the sick and to take care of the orphans. So I think that actually you guys are making a very valid point that I might have to change my mind on this because this does sound like this is what needs to be done for the children.
And how do you guys feel about this?
I feel like you're going against the nature and intent of God.
And how do you
Now
feel about
this man is using his mind that was given to him through evolution.
Can that be seen as derogatory? Please don't say things like that.
Frankly, I believe that the mind was given to me by God, but I do see their point here.
Please don't use that kind of infliction. he was just not being very nice to JP, and we're trying to keep it civil.
Gotcha. So I do see how this is a valid point. I mean, frankly, as
How can we be expected to keep it civil when the very nature of the conversation is same-sex adoption, which is uncivilized in itself?
That's a good point that you have, and we will respect your beliefs on that.
you
It
may
goes back to
view
the
it.
subject of morality, and we still haven't discussed why it's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying it's wrong. I'm saying you need to back that up because your argument is better.
Yeah, I was where does your morality come from?
The Holy Bible?
And where does its morality come from? Who wrote the Holy Bible?
God.
No.
This is my
And how does your God decide what is right and wrong? Did he just already know, or did he just this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong?
God knows all.
That's not morality.
God
That's
is
picking and
omniscient.
choosing.
God is omniscient. God is omnipresent. God knows all there was and will be.
You can be
The Word
one
of God
or
was
you can
passed
be
to
the
humans,
other,
humans
but you
in
can't be
and
all of
itself
it.
is biased, so you're getting secondhand information essentially.
And there's another argument. I mean, even if the child is raised by an immoral parent, it doesn't. The point of raising a child is that you're not really sculpting what they believe or telling them what to believe in. It's more about establishing a basis so that they can live their own life and establish for themselves what they believe in. So you could argue that an immoral parent, even in your context, would still produce a perfectly good
Alright.
child.
Now, I think this was where we come to a conclusion on our discussion today. So, we have Zach, Shelby, JP, and their ideas, and then we have Eric, who seems to be in the middle, and now we have Jacob and Matt on their ideas, and we all respected each other and had a good discussion. And I would like for y'all to thank each other for being here today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Alright, thank you.